Hi guys, and welcome to this presentation of MeInPictures. This project was made by me and my colleague Antonia Haslinger during our 5th semester of the Bachelor Studies in Media Technology and Design at the University of Applied Sciences in Hagenberg, Upper Austria. Sadly, Antonia is for this presentation not here because of her traineeship abroad in northern Germany. So in the subject generative arts, we had to do a project which should handle real-time input, analyze it, and generate an output in any form we like. We decided to use webcam input and make a real-time mosaic. So basically we use the input of a webcam, section it, and replace those sections with pictures of a collection which fits the color the best. For this purpose, we built up two themes, food and nature, with a total of 807 samples. So let's have a look what it looks like. So here we have our main directory. We have the Java folder with the Java things. We have the library with the Java libraries. We have an empty screenshot folder. We have the source code. And in themes, we have the two collections, food and nature, with all pictures. We have a config file, so camera index 0 is the primary camera, camera width and height, the resolution of the camera, the frame rate of the camera. I'll set the segment width and height to higher values because the illumination in here is quite bad. So we have a lot of noise in the webcam, and so the noise isn't affecting that much. So if we start the executable, he loads the settings, he sets up the camera, he starts to load the samples. First of all the food samples, then he analyzes the whole color spectrum, so precision is set to 8, so every 8th color, and he just copies this for the next 7. Same with the nature, this lasts a bit longer because every 8th color will be checked every picture. There might be the possibility of dividing the pictures in color groups, but in a user custom thing you can't control that. That's why we didn't do that. And yeah, as soon as this is done, we should have our first picture, and this is already real-time processing. And here we are. So yeah, 32 by 18 is quite big, and we still have a lot of green because of the noise, especially on my black pullover. But I think you can see some things. Maybe you will just make the video smaller, then you can kind of imagine where the edges are. So this is me, there are some curtains, there's the window. Here is my bed and black thing, and yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. The room is really bad. You can try it yourself. If I press the key T, I can switch to the nature theme. You can see it like that. And another T switches this back. And if I press the S, the whole thing freezes because he now will make a screenshot, but this screenshot isn't like this. It is just bigger and bigger, so the real dimensions of these pictures. So if we close that now and go into screenshot 14, 43, 44, so the time. And as you can see, this is when you zoom in, you have the full resolution, so you can basically look here, some cashews, bananas, and stuff, so you can see really the whole picture. Yeah, that's quite it. Yeah, if it's small, you can see it better. Yeah. Okay, so back to the presentation. Our motivation was to do something with a webcam because I already did a project in high school with a webcam, and I wanted to know if it works better in Java than in C Sharp, and if there were any enhancements over time. We also wanted to create something colorful. Maybe it is not that useful, but I could imagine that such a software would be pretty fun for people. We had a pretty mixed topics process. First of all, we decided to work in processing because we love coding more in text form than in graphical form. Then I began to section the webcam input and calculate the average color of each segment and made a graphical output for that, as you can see in the top. In the meantime, Antonia was starting to get random pictures of food and nature in many different colors and cropped it into small bits, which will work in a mosaic. Summed up 807 samples with 320 by 180 pixels were made. A very exhausting step was closing the gap between the software and those resources. How we exactly did will be mentioned later on. The end was working on some details like different sectionings and on the color matching algorithm. As I already mentioned, we use processing in a version 3.0.1, which is basically a framework with an own user interface for Java. Big advantage of this software is that there are many libraries for it, and for every library there are some examples. We used the processing.video library, which handled the setup and data transfer between the software and the webcam. Let's check out how we did it. So we are here in the source code of MeInPictures, which is divided in 3 files. We have a MeInPictures, a mosaic sample, and a mosaic sample collection. MeInPictures is the main part of the program, which includes the executable. So we have here the own variables for the camera, for the settings. For each theme, we have a mosaic sample collection and a variable for the screenshot function. So basically we have two functions. So we have the setup function and the draw function. If you don't know, processing setup function is for setting up, so it's the initialization process, so only executed in the beginning, and the draw function is always and always again executed. So setup, here we have just the setup of the frame, and then we create the dialog for the startup information. And then first thing, we load the settings. So we just go in and read the config file. First thing is camera index, then the camera width and so on. I think you can imagine how this works. Then he tries to set up the camera, which is done by the processing video library. So first of all, he just gets the camera list by capture.list. Then he creates the new capture by using the settings, and he starts the camera. That's basically the initialization of the camera. Then he's starting to load the themes. So first of all, he starts it for food. So he makes a new mosaic sample collection for food, and here he gets the path of the directory, which is themes food, and just some more arguments like the progress bar and the precision, more or less just the settings about that. So here in the mosaic sample collection, he does the following. He sets the title, which isn't used at all. Then, nice graphical issue. Then he reads the files, so he starts adding all the samples. If it isn't a sample that should be used, so if it isn't a JPEG or something, he just steps over it. This is done in mosaic sample, so here he checks it if it ends with that and that. And he basically loads only the image and has here the function for calculating the average color, and this average color is saved at the mosaic sample, which is a single part of the whole collection, as you can see here. So we have the here we have the list with the samples. So he adds them and does the stuff. If it doesn't work, he will just remove the one because it's, let's say, a .ini file. After this, he starts to make the color spectrum. So he creates a lookup table with 256 by 256 by 256, and he just runs through the colors. And here we have this copy thing, which handles the precision. So if you have a precision of 1, he would do really calculate for every color, else he would just use the precision given. So this is handled by a function called calc closest sample, which does the following. Here is our color matching algorithm. So he just takes the color he gets and transforms it into a HSB color. And then we use a formula which looks like that. So we have a bigger focus on the hue and the brightness than on the saturation. He goes through any sample in any color, so he checks that out and saves the one who has the smallest difference to the source color, so to the average camera color. And yeah, he builds up this lookup table, and that's quite it. So now he starts now the setup is done, and he goes into a drawer, which is basically he reads the camera if the camera is available. He analyzed the camera, which looks like that. So he just calculates how many segments by using the settings given, and yeah, it just goes through, adds up red, green, blue, and divides it through the number of pixels. Just a very basic average algorithm. Um, After that, this result is given to the function theme segments, and the theme segments function does the following. It just creates an image with the same size as the webcam. Then it begins to get the referring image from the sample collection by giving the color, and he resizes it to the size of the segment and builds up the image like that. So yeah, this image is shown, and last but not least there are our key pressed arguments. So T is for switching the theme, and S just sets up the value save next frame to true, which is the variable for making a screenshot. So if this is done, he just builds up the thing, which is exactly the same process like theme segments, but without the resize, or at least a smaller resize. It's a resize by the half. So, and yeah, this picture will be saved, and then he says save next frame is false, so we don't have any additional screenshots, which we don't like. Last but not least, let's talk about what we learned, what worked well, and what didn't. Important things are that we want to keep the runtime and resources low. We are currently around 2 to 4 gigabytes of RAM depending on the resolution of the webcam. We didn't test it out on many devices, but for fluent frame rate on resolutions higher than 480p, a quad core is recommended. We personally tried it on my PC with an i5 2500K with a high-end graphics card, and on my laptop with an i7 mobile core with an old mobile graphics card at 720p each. So the graphics power needed shouldn't be too high, as said we didn't test around it. The CPU has to reach some power level for fluent runtime. The power above this level influences the startup time. A problem that we still have is that we can't control the exposure and brightness settings of the webcam, which leads to the use of the auto values, which create quite a lot of noise if the room isn't illuminated regularly. As further improvements, we should work on the sample collection, or even better on the startup process. On the one hand, when the samples will be regularly divided in the color space, the startup process would be already faster, but on the other hand, would be a user custom theme something more personal, and we can't control that those pictures are well chosen. Beside the noise problem of the webcam, there are still some issues with the color algorithm, which works much better without noise, but there's still some focus on green and blue. Yeah, that's it for that presentation. I hope you had a good look into this project. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate and write in the comments, and I would appreciate if you hit the like button if you like that. If you want to see more, be sure to subscribe and have a look at my website as well, where I present my work. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we see us in another video.